handout in your folders. We're not going to hit to yet because it's very technical, and I'm tired, and you're probably tired too. So we're going to do more practical aspects of that. That's right. And if Carolyn knows this about me, I'll give you way more information than you need. And that's my joy. But my question for you is, what does the word innovative ministry mean to you, or phrase? What does innovative ministry mean?
Different than what the general is doing.
Okay.
Public is doing.
Different than what the public's doing?
Intentionally adaptive.
Intentionally adaptive. Who here would say their ministry is innovative? Okay, excellent. Glad to see that. Then this is a good talk for you all. How many of you guys are paid youth personnel at a church? You're probably aware that if you're in youth ministry or children's ministry, the odds are your job will be eliminated the next 2 to 7 years because there's no money in that field. Just give you a wake-up call. You've not thought about that, unless you're at Shady Side, probably. You know, we know that church is probably fine. But the reality is, youth ministry is a dying field. Children's ministry is a dying field. Our churches are what? Dying. So what does that mean for the future of youth and children's ministry or college ministry? Innovate or die. I mean, I know it's a harsh thing to say, but that's the reality. So how do you innovate? What do you do? So how many of you guys would love to have a bigger youth budget or children's budget or college budget? Anyone a bigger budget? Who would like a budget that's whatever you want to get, you can reach into a special account and get what you want at any time? Anyone like to do that? Who at least like a little more money? Anybody? How about you'd like to be paid a little more with better benefits? Those things can all happen in innovative ministry. You may think, what am I talking about? Well, I remember a couple years back, probably about 10 years ago, I was talking to our senior pastor here, Cynthia, and I said, the future of youth ministry looks bad. And one of the things Carol and I always talk about is that every time this year would hit our church, we were told there's a good chance your job's going to be cut or eliminated from ours. And we lived under that guise for about 7 years in a row. Every fall we were told this, look out, and we would literally talk like, can you believe we're still being told this? Now, they never cut it, but they'd cut our budgets, they'd do this. My current youth budget at Beulah is, do you know what it is, Jay? Less than that. It's $1,200. My ministry budget is about $150,000, $170,000 a year, not including my salary. So how do you do that? That's my question. Well, how do you do that kind of stuff? My youth ministry, our youth ministry, which is our East End Youth Ministry, actually makes money for the church. We pay rent, we pay my salary, we pay church secretary salary, we buy supplies, we do improvements, we do all kinds of things. What would your relationship with your church look like if you were financially solvent and had the capacity to grow differently and not be reliant upon the church you work under? Would your ministry be different? Would your ministry be different if you didn't? If your pastor said, "Hey, I just love the fact that you're making this easy on us. Go for it. Just go. You're doing something crazy." How would that impact your world? Would you like that better or worse? Most would like it better, wouldn't we? Innovative ministry is about looking outside the box, but also realizing that we can't do it the same way. What is the definition of frustration or not doing things right? It's doing the same thing what? Over and over, expecting the same results. Most of us are using models that what? We've been using for years upon years. Most of them came out of the 50s. And we think we've made a few changes, right? Have we really made a lot of changes? So how many guys, one of your key partners is your school system? I mean, you talk to the superintendent, you call principals, you work with guidance counselors. I do. All the time. Nancy Hines was true story. Nancy Hines was the superintendent at Penn Hills High School. We worked together on a project. Actually, I wrote a curriculum and a project for her that she got funded through the county that I didn't end up doing with her. But I helped her write a whole curriculum. She invited me to the table, talked to them all the time. I went to my school boards and said, hey, what can I do for you? Not what can you do for me? And what started happening is they started coming back to me. We need help with some chaperones. We need help with drugs. But eventually what happens, they told me, we have a problem. Kids are dropping out of school. Kids don't have enough food. Kids don't have parents that care. They're falling through the cracks. They're not graduating. What do we do? Well, that's where innovation comes in. I said, well, what can we do? How can our youth ministry be different? How can we stay on the cracks that our community has? Addressing not what the church wants or needs, but what? What our community needs. That's innovative youth ministry. So I started working on grant writing. How many of you guys have written a grant before? How many of you guys have written a grant and received a grant? How many of you guys have gotten grants over at least $100,000 a year? Awesome. On a regular basis. I do grant writing. Past year, I probably wrote grants for about $185,000, received all of it. That'll be this year's fiscal budget for us that we raise. We plus do other fundraising. That probably scares a lot of you guys. What do you mean? How do you do this kind of stuff? My three biggest partners are Department of Human Services with Allegheny County, Department of Child Initiatives with Allegheny County, and the Western Pennsylvania United Way. They're my biggest partners. Not my church, not givers from the church, but independent secular organizations that love that I share the love of Christ. Let me ask you, how do I get the chance to be a county-sponsored organization and share the love of Christ? That's where innovation comes into play. It's learning how to do and describe what you're doing in a unique sort of way. So I'm going to read a story for you. You guys familiar with Sticky Faith Innovation? You ever heard of this? This is one of their books called just Sticky Faith Innovation. It came out a couple years ago. Here's a story. It's called A Story of Compassion, City Church. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. I'm never going to do this. Not exactly words you want to hear from a teenager when you try something for the first time in your youth ministry. While working on their compassion move, Connor's innovation team had listened to the teenagers, and their students were honest. They felt alone, unloved, and didn't think they could have a purpose outside of finding an hourly job at some point in the distant future. Does that describe any of these kids you worked with before? They feel hopeless with entering the world. It actually was hard for Connor's team to hear the pain and the disillusionment, yet they hung in there and kept listening. Through prayer and discernment over what they seemed Jesus would want them to say to the teenagers, the team came up with this. You are fully known and still loved. To bridge the gap between teenagers' current and Jesus-centered answers, they decided to innovate around the practice of lament for the youth group. How many of you guys ever used lament as a main course of study for youth ministry? Anybody? That's what we've done for about 3 years, lament. The biblical practice of Old Testament lamenting. Now you may ask, what the heck? We do it in the same way Faith talked about it. We talk about lamenting through stories, through Old Testament practice. How many kids are miserable, have anxiety, suffer, are on medication, have ADHD, are struggling with things? Anybody ever kids like, raise your hand, come on, what participation here? Yeah, all of our kids. That's lament. They need to cry out. Let me finish this story. They long for their young people to discover God cares about and what they've been through, is with them and in their pain, and that isn't intimidated by their anger or grief. Connor's team was excited to try their new practice with their teenagers, but 16-year-old Jose was not having anything of it. This is stupid. Why am I going to complain to God about all the shit that happens in my life? He doesn't care. Yes, Fuller printed a curse word in one of their books, just to let you know. Connor and his team developed creative ways for the teenagers to lament to God through yoga, painting, writing songs, poems, spoken word. But they started second-guessing themselves after Jose's reaction. Yet thankfully, the other teenagers in the group seemed cautiously open and willing to give it a try. Week after week, the youth group gathered and Connor invited his students to lament. The more opportunities the teenagers had, the more honest they became with God and each other. The pain they slowly started to reveal was extraordinary and heartbreaking. One week, a teenager broke down and sobbed. They keep making fun of me at school because I smell. We don't have any running water at home. This lament prompted Connor, the youth pastor, to visit Jose's home the next day. He was shocked by what he found. Gas and water had been shut off. The family was struggling to put food on the table. 3 months later, it started a small experiment practicing lament in the youth group, led the church opening shower facilities and laundry facilities, budget management classes, family dinner nights during Wednesday night youth group times, and group meetings. The entire congregation rallied around the families in the church and community who were facing enormous needs. Today, as a result of the innovative ministry, Connor's youth group has become a nonprofit that partners with the city to bring care to families in the community who are facing food insecurity and poverty. When Connor told us about the innovation and all that it led to, we were dumbfounded. It was surpassed our wildest expectations, and he shared this final quote with us. If we hadn't reimagined lament for our community, our youth group would have had never made the impact it's having today. To be honest, in my 25 years of being a youth leader, I've never been so exhausted. Yet I've never been so sure that I'm doing what God has called me to do. Lament is helping our whole church grieve the good old days from 50 years ago, the way they used to meet families, to find the needs today, helping them turn towards the future. Oh, and you know what? Jose is now the first person to share his laments each week, and he's encouraging teenagers new to try the thing in the future. Now, if you haven't realized, I'm Connor in that story. That's our youth ministry. We decided to do things differently. Our youth ministry consists of a very different kind of practice. Carolyn's actually taught some things with us. We've done some crazy things. But we also do some fun things. One of the things that actually come out of our youth ministry is, Jason, what are we doing Wednesday nights now as a church because of our nonprofit youth ministry?
Family night, where church feels like family.
That's right. Pager cooks for us every Wednesday night because the first thing we did is our kids were hungry. So guess what we started doing? Good, hot, home-cooked meals. Not pizza, not Hot Pockets, but food like this tonight, our kids get every Wednesday night hot. We also do after-school programming. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 to 6, we open our doors. We may get no kids. We may get 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 kids. The county helped us pay for these things because the county discovered there's no safe places in our communities left for teenagers. How many of you guys say it's true? There's no place for kids to go in your neighborhoods. I had that same problem. In Woodland Hills, Penn Hills, Wilkinsburg, there's no safe place for kids to go anymore. I found the need. I talked to kids what they wanted, a safe place. I found grants that gave money to create safe spaces. Our youth ministry looks like a regular youth group, but it functions completely differently. And it functions as a nonprofit now. East End Youth Ministry is now in the process of becoming an official nonprofit. We're also a 1,001 worshiping community. Woo, little push for that. And the other crazy thing that's going to be happening is I'm probably going to be ordained through 2 different denominations to the East End Youth Ministry, not to Beulah. Now, Beulah will get my services kind of on the side. But innovation is thinking outside the box and doing things very differently. Being creative, but not just creative, but finding the needs your community have, finding ways to answer those needs and do things differently. So in your little packet, read this, do some homework. Because it talks about some simple steps. More important, there's a little diagram on the back that you have to ask yourself. Do I have a problem in what we're doing in ministry? If it's well defined, you can answer yourself yes. If it's not, then move yourself down. Then ask the other second on the other. Do I have the ability to do this? Do I know how to solve this problem? If I don't, then I fall in one of these 4 categories. Now, these 4 categories, I discovered I was through breakthrough innovation, which means I didn't have resources. I didn't have ways to get ministry done, so we had to find a way to do this. I am not a grant writer. I'm not good at writing grants. I hired people. I found great grant writers. And then I copy and pasted all their great work that I paid for. Because it was cheaper to not hire them again. But be smart. But here's the biggest thing I'll tell you about innovation. It's more costly, it's more tiresome, and you're going to fail a lot more. I want to say it's more costly, so you're going to need more money to spend. It's more exhausting, you're going to be more tired, and you're going to fail a lot more. Why don't youth ministries, children's ministries do ministry innovation? Those 3 reasons. It's hard. But the other side is you can do things completely differently. You can impact your communities completely differently. I have a direct access to guidance counselors at Woodland Hills. We talk about kids. I'm going to finish the story. That Jose kid we told you about that didn't have any running water and stuff. Eventually we got a refrigerator. We got the water turned back on. We got the gas running. We had a stove. We had a hot water heater. Then Jose comes to me his junior year and goes, Alex, I got some great news. My girlfriend's pregnant. Okay, now I'm thinking, okay, we just got Jose over the hump, we thought. Now we have what? Another hump. Is this kid going to graduate? Well, his girlfriend dropped out because she was pregnant. At 16, she dropped out of high school. Doesn't even want a GED. He's now going to be a dad at 17. What's his future look like? What's it look like? Not good. He's going to fall in the same system he's grown up in. Just circulate the whole system instead of staying in the gap. So our ministry is to stay in this gap. So Jose and I talked, and I called his guidance counselor, and we came up with a plan for him to finish high school and get a diploma. He walked this past May. He worked in our summer camp. We run a summer camp. Carol and I started this many years ago, and this past summer, we ran it grew a little bit more. And the camp, we hired these kids that wouldn't get jobs, that they don't have the capacity. I found 2 kids this year that were functionally illiterate that joined our staff team. I'm now working with them how to learn to read and write, because that's their need. If they can't read and write, can they function beyond the world? No. Jose worked for us. Jose was able to get another job at Dunkin' Donuts one summer. Then this past year, he came back, and he said, Alex, what am I going to do? I don't know what my future holds. I said, well, let's look at what's out there. We discovered PNC has a teller program for high school graduates. They can get trained for 10 weeks, become tellers, and then have a career, and then PNC invests in them to get associates, possibly bachelor's degree, and a full-time career. Jose is now on Grant Street downtown as a bank teller. He's going to probably make it. On Wednesday nights, our family night, youth group nights, he's here. His partner's here, their baby's here, and she's, of course, pregnant again. But the hope is he's got a what? More than a job. He's got a career opportunity, a future that looks awesome. And that's our job in innovative ministry. Standing in the gaps, the cracks, the places, and getting ourselves to do it with the love of Christ. And people go, how can I talk about Christ all this stuff? Schools don't care. The county doesn't care if I'm talking about Jesus Christ, because they see that what I'm doing is loving kids regardless. So one of our principles is we have a very simple phrase. What is it, Jason? What's our phrase for youth ministry?
Everybody love everybody.
Everybody love everybody. We are, unfortunately, a lot of folks don't like this. We are open and affirming as a youth ministry. We are very welcoming to kids. We have rainbow flags. We have rainbow Legos downstairs. I had a family come in 2 weeks ago that said, my daughter cannot participate. You are too progressive and not found in the Bible enough. I said, well, I believe in a different kind of Jesus that loves everybody equally. And we lost a family because of that. But as Jason and I have said, and luckily my pastor agrees with me, is we'll hang our hat on that as a badge of honor. That family left because we love them too much. And so we do things differently. We love kids wherever they're at. I'm not saying that you should do anything I'm doing. And here's the hardest thing. What I'm doing works for who? For me, for the East End Youth Ministry. In innovative ministry, you don't read a book, find a formula, and apply it to you. It's going to take years. It took us years to get to this point with prayer, building a team, doing everything Sharon talked about we have to do on a regular basis. My team is made up of very few folks from Beulah. We have tons of Beulah kids involved in it, and a few Beulah families, but I have a lot of folks outside the community helping me out. Folks from other churches, working as a community to love our kids for Jesus Christ. That's what innovative ministry is. That's a quick summation. Feel free to read your packet. Do you have any quick questions for me tonight? I know it's like drinking from a fire hose, and I apologize for that. I throw a lot at you. If you ever want to know more about how to do innovative ministry, I'd love to sit down and talk with you. I'd love to give you some ideas. I'd love to help you look at grants, what ways to do it. Because the greatest thing I have is, Jason always joke, I don't ask him for anything, because why?
You have everything? Oh.
No. We don't need the church to support us. We're here to support the church. Imagine if your ministry became a support for a church's budget instead of a drain on a church budget. How would your ministry be different? It would be drastically different, wouldn't it be? That's what we're able to do by the grace of God. Not anything we've done. We don't think it's special or great. We're just doing what God's allowed us to do. And right now, it's exciting and it's neat. And so it's really a crazy place to be. So thank you, everybody.